In 1958, a musicologist claimed he found a tiny scrap of paper in the ruins of a bombed-out library. Just a few bars of a melody. He said he reconstructed it into a masterpiece. But here's the thing. No one has ever seen that scrap of paper, not once, in 70 years. Let's start in 1945. Dresden, one of Europe's great cultural capitals, is on fire. Allied bombing raids flatten the city over 3 days. The Saxon State Library, which held the world's largest collection of manuscripts by a Baroque composer named Tomaso Albinoni, is turned to ash. Thousands of pages gone. 13 years later, an Italian musicologist named Remo Giazzotto steps forward with a claim. He says he found something in the ruins. A tiny fragment. A few bars of a melody scrawled on a scrap of paper. He says he simply reconstructed what must have been Albinoni's intention. The result is the Adagio in G minor. You already know it. You've known it your entire life. Here's the problem. In 70 years of academic research, with some of the most rigorous archival scholarship in the world, nobody has ever found that scrap of paper. Not one historian, not one archive. And when Giazzotto died in 1992, he quietly changed his story. He admitted the piece was based on a fragment, not reconstructed from one. Most modern scholars now believe Giazzotto wrote the entire thing himself and put a dead man's name on it. So why does this matter? Because this fake Adagio didn't just become popular, it became culturally inescapable. In 1981, Peter Weir used it as the closing score for Gallipoli. If you've seen the film, you know the scene. If you haven't, it will break you. 2 years later, it appears in Flashdance, underneath the famous sequence, giving a nightclub stage the emotional weight of a requiem. In 1997, it fills Westminster Abbey at Princess Diana's funeral. Royal funerals, war films, over 200 television and cinema placements. It became the shorthand for grief itself, the sound the world reaches for when words aren't enough. And through all of it, every performance, every CD sleeve, every YouTube upload, one name attached to it: Tomaso Albinoni, a man who died in 1751, who would not recognise a single note. So who was the real Tomaso Albinoni? Let me give you 3 facts that will completely reframe him. Fact 1. He was wealthy enough to refuse every patron in Venice. His father was one of the city's most successful merchants. Albinoni signed his published works Dilettante Veneto, the Venetian amateur, not as an insult, as a provocation. It meant, I write music because I love it. I answer to no one. Fact 2. He gave the oboe its voice. Before Albinoni, the oboe was an instrument for soldiers and shepherds, too coarse for serious concert music. He wrote the first Italian oboe concertos, treating it the way a great opera composer treats a soprano: long, aching, personal melodies. The oboe's role in the modern orchestra, as the instrument every musician tunes to at the start of every concert, traces back, in part, to what Albinoni unlocked. Fact 3. Johann Sebastian Bach studied him. Not politely, seriously. 4 fugues written in Bach's own hand are built on Albinoni's harmonic frameworks. Bach used his bass lines as teaching material. The greatest composer who ever lived was, essentially, a student of the Venetian amateur. The man whose name sits on a piece he never wrote was already remarkable. The fraud didn't need to happen. Which is what makes Dresden so devastating.
When those libraries burned, it wasn't just manuscripts. It was 80 operas, hundreds of concertos and sonatas, a body of work that might have placed Albinoni alongside Vivaldi, Handel, Corelli, the names every classical music listener knows. Instead, what survived gave the world just enough to sense his genius, not enough to understand it. And so the world filled that gap with the Adagio. A beautiful piece that Albinoni never wrote became the monument for a man who deserved a far greater one. Here's the question I've been sitting with since I first found this story. Was Giazzotto wrong? The argument against him is simple. Every time a program note says Tomaso Albinoni, Adagio in G minor, a lie is stated as fact. The real Albinoni, the oboe revolutionary, the Bach inspiration, the Venetian who wrote music purely for love, stays buried. But the argument for him is harder to dismiss. The Adagio worked. It brought billions of people into contact with Albinoni's name. Some of them, curious about the man on the sleeve, found the real concertos. The fraud became a gateway. And this is what I keep coming back to. The fact that the Adagio moves people so deeply that it's been chosen independently by filmmakers and funeral directors and heads of state as the sound for the most solemn moments in modern life suggests that Giazzotto captured something real about Albinoni's soul. Whether he meant to or not. Maybe that's the strangest tribute a composer has ever received. Not a concert hall named after you, not a statue. A beautiful lie, told so convincingly that it outlived everyone who knew the truth.
That's day 16 of the Daily Maestro. Music history you were never taught. If you want to hear the real Albinoni, the oboe concertos that made Bach stop and pay attention, start with Opus 9, number 2. I've put it in the playlist in the description. And subscribe, because next time we leave Venice entirely, a boy, 11 years old, breaks into the Vatican to steal its most protected musical secret. Mozart is coming. See you then.